On May 27, 1977, Executive Deputy Commissioner Gordon Ambach was elected Commissioner of Education by the Board of Regents. The Regents meeting was covered by Albany area television stations, channels 6, 10, and 13, for broadcast on their evening news programs.
Tracy Egan was at the Board of Regents meeting today. Tracy, was this an expected appointment?
Not really yet. It was known that Ambach was being considered, but because he was Nyquist's hand-picked deputy, and Nyquist was fired last November after years of battling with the board, other candidates were thought to have the inside track. The Regents voted on the nomination without debate, and in a secret ballot, the count was taken as being 11 in favor of Ambach, 3 against, with Regent Laura Chodos absent.
11 yes, 3 no, 1 absent. We have a new Commissioner of Education.
Commissioner Nyquist was the first to congratulate the 43-year-old Providence, Rhode Island native and graduate of Yale and Harvard universities. Ambach was selected from a field of some 200 candidates. According to Regents Chancellor Theodore Black, Ambach had the best qualifications, experience in various phases of educational activity. He was articulate, imaginative, with the ability to maintain good rapport between the educational community and the legislature. Ambach said the top education post will require him to perform a dual role.
Policies, to make recommendations with respect to the directions that should be taken in education, to provide his own judgments as to what those directions should be. And on the other hand, the role is to carry through or to implement the policies of the board once they've been established.
Ambach said when his recommendations are not acceptable to the board, he will carry through on the board's policy. Although the Regents have never cited specific reasons for firing Nyquist, it's accepted that the majority of Regents were unhappy with Nyquist's independence, especially in his attempts to integrate schools. Ambach then will apparently toe the policy line drawn by the Regents. Ambach will step into the post on June 30th when Commissioner Nyquist's firing becomes effective. Ambach says the next several months will be spent choosing deputies and that he will place a heightened emphasis on cooperation with the governor and legislative leaders during his tenure as Education Commissioner. I'm Tracy Egan.
For the past 7 years, Gordon Ambach has been Ewald Nyquist's right-hand man. But today, the Board of Regents elevated Ambach to the Education Department's top job.
The Regents made their decision after months of searching for the right person to replace Commissioner Ewald Nyquist, who was fired in November. In private session, the Regents made their choice, but a public written vote was taken to officially appoint Gordon Ambach. There was no discussion. It had been thought E.F. Fretwell, president of the State University College at Buffalo, who was considered the front runner for the job, would be named.
1 absent. We have a new Commissioner of Education.
Gordon Ambach was appointed by Commissioner Nyquist in 1970 as Executive Deputy Commissioner of Education. He's 43 years old and a graduate of Yale and Harvard universities. As Deputy Commissioner, he was responsible for many operations of the department, including preparation of the education budget and legislative proposals for consideration by the Commissioner and Board of Regents.
I am deeply honored to be selected President of the University of the State of New York and Commissioner of Education. I hope that I can fulfill the board's expectation for my service. Our educational system is one of the greatest assets of the state of New York. Through this system, the talents and capabilities of the people take expression. The system must serve each individual, for education is a very personal thing. We must assure that each individual has opportunity to satisfy his or her capacity and aspiration. The University of the State of New York is the most important concept in education in this land.
Commissioner Nyquist was fired by the Regents over administrative and policy differences. On Ambach's appointment, Nyquist said, "I'm delighted. He did a fine job as Executive Deputy and will serve the Regents well." Elfrida Graves, TV 10 Action News.
Bill's State Education Commissioner Ewald Nyquist was fired last November by the Board of Regents. Today, after months of raiding, the board named Gordon Ambach as his replacement and the next president of the University of the State of New York. Marie Rice reports.
Since 1970, Gordon Ambach has held the second highest post in the state education department.
Focus is on learning, not just on schools or institutions. Learning in all forms.
Chancellor Theodore Black said the selection was a long, hard process. The candidates were distinguished and many. There were close to 200.
I think the board certainly gave it a real college try, as they say. We spent hours and hours and hours deliberating, talking, debating, discussing.
Ousted Commissioner Ewald Nyquist said he had no definite plans, then quickly added he did have one.
I'm going to do what a famous general once said when he retired. He's going to sit on the front porch in the rocking chair and for 6 months, and after 6 months he's going to start rocking. That's what I'm going to do.
He said after being Education Commissioner, nothing grabs you. Outgoing Education Commissioner Ewald Nyquist was asked, how do you survive in this job? He replied, keep a good sense of humor. The new Education Commissioner, Gordon Ambach, was then asked, do you have a sense of humor? He replied, I hope. Marie Rice for Newswatch 13 at the State Education Building in Albany.